Hey everyone, Vincent here from CreativeDojo.net. In today's video tutorial, I'm extremely excited to share with you guys some of the techniques and visual effects that Corridor Digital did in their latest video, Dubstep Guns. Now actually, I was tweeted by Sam from Corridor Digital, and he was just asking me some questions, and we talked on email, and he was telling me how he watched some of my form tutorials on YouTube, which is very an honorable thing for me because, you know, Sam from Corridor is watching one of my video tutorials. He said he learned a lot of things, and he said that he was going to do with video using form in a visual effects standpoint, which is this video right here of him using it as somewhat of a laser blast for his gun. And this is actually a screenshot and me recreating the effect, kind of. If you haven't seen the video, the links will be in the video description here, but essentially this is what the guns and lasers kind of look like. So pretty interesting use of form in a visual effect way rather than motion graphics. So you just have some strings of form particles just flying around. Pretty interesting here. Here's also a breakdown or behind the scenes of what they did. Oh, and by the way, check out Vincent's awesome form tutorials right here. Link to my channel. Pretty cool. I am mentioned in the behind the scenes and the making of Dubstep guns. So this is what the effect that we're trying to achieve right here. Some of the laser guns right here. And they do a great job of breaking down what they actually did. So you can see just a whole bunch of laying of different kind of form particles and form grids to create one final laser right here. And it's just the various layers of form. So we're going to try to recreate this in After Effects. I got a lot of requests on it, plus Corridor Digital, you know, link to my channel on form tutorials. So I got a ton of requests to like doing these laser effects. And although it doesn't look exactly like Corridor Digital, we're going to be focusing on the concept of it. Now, I'm not a visual effects artist or a compositor. I'm a motion graphics designer, so I don't have any experience or prior knowledge to compositing or making things look good on footage. So just bear with me and let's get started with the video tutorial. And what we have here is a clean plate still frame image of the Dubstep Guns video. Sam was actually gracious enough to send me a few clean plates and still frames of their shots without any visual effects applied to it, specifically for this video tutorial. So Sam knows about this video tutorial. We were talking about it, and I told him I was going to make a tutorial over the lasers that he did. And he was, you know, really kind enough to send me a few screenshots without any of the visual effects, so we can do this video tutorial with a little more style right here. So we just turn on the lasers right here. You can see that our lasers actually emit from the gun. So they're not just fading on, fading off. They're actually kind of being emitted from the gun. And if you just apply a simple optical flares right there, bam, you have your muzzle flash somewhat. And you have a pretty convincing effect. Now, of course, you can use some more compositing enhancements to this thing, but I'll leave that to Corridor Digital to do their work because they do a great job on teaching people how to composite stuff in the Sam and Nico channel. So let's just go ahead and get started with this video tutorial. Let's create a new composition here, and we're just going to name this Lasers. I'm going to make it 1280 by 720 and hit OK. So we have a blank composition here, and we're just going to drag our screenshot clean plate image right here just as a reference. I'm going to right click, go to transform, and hit fit to comp. So it's just going to fit the image to the composition, and we're just going to shut it off for now. So they basically use form throughout the whole laser effect, so we're going to use form in this video tutorial. So we're going to create a new layer, Control Command Y to bring up a new solid setting, and we're just going to name this form. And then we're going to go to the effects and presets and search in form. Now form is a paid plugin by Red Giant software, so if you don't have form in your effects and presets, it's because you didn't buy it. You can download a free trial at redgiantsoftware.com. It's a very versatile plugin, great for motion graphics. So we just have form and its basic form right here. So let's dive down to the base form, and let's just go ahead and tweak this. So in the original video, you can see that they actually have strings of particles rather than grids, as you see here. Now by default, form has particles. So we're just going to create a new camera so we can kind of see this first. So new camera. I'm going to create a new 50mm camera. Just like that. And if we just zoom in here, you can see that they're particles. They're not necessarily strings. And we can change that by going to form. We can go change it from box grid to box strings, which are now transforms our particles into strings. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the grid a little bit longer because we want our lasers to be kind of long. So we're going to increase the size in X, which expands the X axis. And then we're going to decrease the Y axis because we don't want it to be so tall. Kind of thin, kind of narrow is what we want. And we want the strings in Z to be 1 for now. We don't want so much depth. And we're going to decrease the strings in Y. So we're going to decrease how many strings are in the Y axis. So we can start to see kind of our individual grids of strings right here. So we just have a plain grid of strings similar to a grand staff. Nothing too special here. Now we're going to go down to the disperse and twist, and we're just going to twist this thing up. Something around 17. And then we're going to go to the fractal field, and this is where everything happens. This is where we're going to mess up our strings of particles right here. So we're going to hit change effect size to 1, effect opacity to 1, so our fractal field affects the size and the opacity of our grid right here. And then we're just going to crank up the displace, which is going to mess up and apply our fractal field to our grid of strings. So rather than having a nice smooth curvy string, we have kind of a displaced, rigged kind of string. We're going to change the flow evolution to 25 so they're not moving as fast. And we're just going to crank up the flow in X. So it's going to start flowing to the right a little bit more. So this is looking kind of good, but how do we simulate it firing out? I mean, right now they're just kind of appearing out of nowhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a layer map. So let's create a new composition right here. And we're just going to name this firing map. It's going to control the firing of this grid particle right here. Hit OK. And we're going to create a new white solid. So Command or Control Y to create a new solid. We're going to name this firing map. Make sure it's at comp size and hit OK. So now we just have a white solid here. We're going to drag in linear wipe under transition. Drag that in, and by default nothing happens. We're going to change the wipe angle to -90, so it's going to wipe on the left side. We're going to change the feathering to about 200 so we have a nice soft edge, and we're just going to animate this. So let's crank this up to 100%. Hit a stopwatch keyframe, hit U on the keyboard to reveal all the keyframes right here. Again, that's U on the keyboard, and we're just going to go about 2 seconds or so and change it from the transition completion to 0. So essentially what's happening is our white layer is fading on the left side. Just like that. So our white layer is just fading on from the left side to the right. And then it's just going to fade out again. So let's just move forward a little bit, hit a stopwatch again. So it's going to stay white, and then we're just going to fade it out again. So it changes back to 100. So what's happening is our white solid is appearing, it's staying on, and it's just going to fade out. Now what this means is what the black area is going to be invisible, and what the white area is going to be visible. So our firing or our lasers is only going to be visible in the white area. So right now it's black, so nothing's visible. Now as the white comes in, the laser is going to be visible. The laser is going to stay visible because the whole frame is white. And then at the end, our laser is going to fade out like this. And this is the map. This is the firing map. So it's going to control how the lasers are going to fire. So if we just bring in our firing map, what we just created, we can just shut it off because we're not using it as an actual layer. We're going to use it as a layer map to map our opacity of our grid. So let's go back to form. And let's go down to the layer map section of form. Go down to color in alpha, which is going to control the color in alpha of this grid particle. Now for the layer, we're going to select our layer map, which is our firing map. Functionality, we're just going to use alpha. So the alpha of this firing comp right here. Map over X and Y. So as you can see, what happens here is nothing's really visible. And then our grid of particles is going to fade on like that. And then it's just going to fade off eventually. Now if you want things to be firing a little bit faster, you can always increase these keyframes a little bit. So it's going to fire faster, it's going to stay on for longer, and then it's going to fade out pretty quickly. So essentially that's how you do the emission of the grid of particles right here. So let's just scroll down here and focus on the particles right now. I'm going to change the color to a nice purple color, kind of a pink color right here. something kind of light. Hit OK. And we're just gonna focus on tweaking this thing now, because we essentially have the same thing, because we essentially have the basic form down. I'm gonna decrease the strings in Y to 5 because we don't need that many strings, as you can see in the demonstration here. There's not that much strings going on. We can have different colors. We have blue, we're gonna have another blue and some pink, some light blue, just purple right here. We just have a various different amount of colors, so we're gonna stack layers of form. So we kind of have our basic purple right here. And I'm just gonna decrease the size a little bit more and go ahead. And I think that looks good for now. We can always come back here and tweak it. So I'm just gonna hit enter or return and name this purple. We're gonna hit Control Command D to duplicate it, and we're just gonna name this blue. And we're gonna go back to the particles and change the color from purple to blue. And right now you'll see no difference because our particles are the same, they're just different colors. So what we gotta do is change it a little bit. We're gonna maybe make it a little bit taller. So increase the Y. Maybe we can decrease the strings in Y as well to 4. And we can go down to the string settings and maybe decrease the density so the strings aren't as dense. Maybe something like that. And maybe we can just displace it a little bit more. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're just trying to duplicate it a lot of times and just messing around with it so it looks kind of different. So you can see kind of what we're aiming for right here. So we kind of have this inner part of the laser, we kind of have the blue outer part of the laser, and now what we need is a core, because in the original demonstration we kind of have a pretty strong core, as you see right here, kind of a strong blue core. So let's create an orange core. So we're going to again duplicate the blue, name this orange core, scroll down to the particle section, and again change the color to a nice orange. Maybe something like that. Now for the core, it's very, very small, so we're going to decrease the size in Y, kind of make it in the center, like that. And we're just going to change the particle size to maybe 2.3, so it's kind of thick, maybe a little bit more. And as you can see, our particles are kind of breaking apart now. They're not a solid line anymore. And we can fix that by pumping up the density, so it's a little bit more dense. And we're going to drag the orange core between the blue and the purple, so it kind of just blends in a little bit better. Just something like that. Now let's go ahead and change the transfer mode, all these to add. So they add on top of each other, like that. And let's just go ahead and turn on our screenshot to see what it looks like. That looks about the right size. Now what we can do to enhance this is to apply a glow. So search in glow under the effects and presets. And let's just apply a glow to each and one of these lasers. So let's just settle this to purple one. And let's go ahead and tweak the glow for the purple one, and we can apply it to the rest of the lasers. So just mess around with the threshold. What you're trying to do is you're actually trying to make it kind of look like a neon kind of color, like something you would see at a club or something. So pretty bright, pretty intense. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So now that we have our glow set up, we're just going to hit Control Command C on the glow. And we're just going to apply the glow to every single one of these form layers. So just Control V or Command V to paste it in there. So now we have a glow in the orange core, and now we have the glow in the blue. And you can always go in here and individually tweak some of these settings for each individual laser. So now that we have the basics done on the base form of form, how do we rearrange this? Well, first of all, you can motion track it and rearrange it and all that stuff. Now, you can watch so many tutorials on motion tracking. You can especially watch some from Freddie Wong on Freddie W's channel or Corridor Digital's channel. They have tons of Mocha and After Effects tracking tutorials, so if you guys might check that out, learn how to composite it in, check them out. But I'm just going to show you a really, really quick way to reorganize, rearrange, and reposition these lasers. So if you create a new camera, you can actually hit C until you get to the orbit tool right here. This is the orbit tool. Just press C to find the orbit tool. It's the kind of a spiral circle arrow. And again, you can just rotate it, kind of orbit around it. So just kind of zoom out here. Just press C to toggle through the camera tools and just kind of rotate the particle until you get something that you like. So as you can see, by doing it this way, you can actually change the angle to whatever you want without recreating it at a different angle. So maybe your gun's on this side. You can just rearrange it this way, so it's firing at someone over here. Maybe you're trying to do a side wide angle shot and your gun's over here. You can just reposition over here. There's just so many angles that you can do. That's why I like to use the camera tool and just orbit around it. So I'm gonna turn on our screenshot this time. And as you can see here, the gun barrel is right here. So we're just gonna try to rearrange our lasers so they kind of just match the angle. So just match the angle first, and then hit C until you get to this kind of tool right here. I forgot what it's called. The Track XY camera tool. Get that tool and just reposition the laser right here. And the great part about this is, even though we're rearranging and moving the position of the lasers, our firing map is still intact. So our lasers are still going to be getting fired. And this is actually the wrong way. So let me just orbit it the other way. Just rearrange it. Kind of rearrange it like that. And as you can see here, our firing map is still intact, so our grid of particles or lasers are still firing, which is pretty cool. Now it looks kind of tacky like this if it's just firing like that. Now in the original demonstration that Corridor did, they actually have a lens flare kind of firing, and they're using a lens flare kind of as a muzzle flash. As you can see here, you kind of have this nice green flare in there, just kind of cover it up, cover the imperfections up. So what I did was I just created an Optical Flares. Drag that in. Again, Optical Flares is a paid plugin by Video Copilot. So if you don't have it, you can use a standard lens flare, or you can use Nose Lens Factory, whatever works. I'm just going to use a preset here. I'm going to use a Pro preset, which is again a paid preset package. And I'm just going to use the North Star preset. I'm going to go in here and kind of delete some of the assets that come bundled with it. I'm going to delete the glow, the streak, and some of the irises. We don't really need any of the irises because we're using it as a muzzle flash rather than an actual lens flare. So we're going to change the transfer mode from normal to add. We're just going to add it to our scene, and we're just going to position it right at the barrel of the gun, so it's kind of like a muzzle flash. And of course you can change the scale to about 120 to make it a little bit more intensive. And of course you can color correct this, tweak this up. I actually think that the lasers is kind of small, so we can just go back and just kind of make it a little bit bigger. It's actually fairly easy to do. Just increase the size in Y so that the Y range is kind of larger. And we can add more particles in to fill the gap. And we can do the same with the purple. Something like that. Put more particles in. And we just turn everything back on. And we kind of have this nice kind of laser effect. Now again, I'm not a compositor, I'm not a visual effects artist, I'm a motion graphics designer. So I know how to do things at a motion graphics standpoint. But of course this is all a concept-based tutorial, so again you're gonna have to experiment, you're gonna have to tweak, and then you're gonna need to composite this in. So there's tons of tutorials for compositing and motion tracking to actually hook this thing on to your footage right here. I know this is still frame, so it's very easy to match, but you're gonna have to motion track and composite it in and just position everything correctly. So I'll have a whole bunch of links for motion tracking and video tutorials on that in the video description down below, or at my site at creativededge.net. This has been a very basic tutorial on form. Hopefully you guys learned something. It's not a very difficult thing to do to create lasers in form. You're gonna actually need to just experiment with it. Also, very quick tip. You can actually create this and make this audio react. So in the original demonstration, again, I believe that Sam actually made this thing audio react. Now I have a separate video tutorial on audio reaction in form. So if you want more details on that, you can just check it out. That link will be in the video description as well. But essentially, you just bring in your audio layer. Just bring in the audio layer in. Go back to form. And go down to the audio react section. Change it to our audio layer. Go to the reactor. Change it to map to maybe Fractal, pump up the strength, and if you just solo it real quick, you can see that our audio is actually kind of affecting our fractal grid right here. And you're gonna need to play around with the strength a little bit because sometimes the audio can be kind of weak. So we just need to pump up the audio reaction. So just check it out. As you can see here, our form layer is actually reacting to our audio. I have a separate tutorial on this once again, links in the video description, but you can make this thing audio react. It's looking pretty good. So essentially guys, this is pretty much it. Of course, this thing needs a lot more work, like some more compositing enhancements, some glow, more glow. You can add some sparks, you can add some more particles flying around with particular, you can add some smoke. There's so many things you can do to this, but this is essentially the basic platform or instruction on how to create these basic lasers in Form. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys liked this tutorial. Remember, all the links will be in the video description down below. You can check me out at creativedojo.net. I'm Vincent Nguyen, and thank you guys for watching. Leave your feedback, comments down below, and thanks for watching, guys.